Welcome viewers. This is Literary Goa, the program that looks at books, authors from and about Goa. And today we have with us Anita Pinto, someone who's done a lot of work on writing for children. Anita, I think you have the distinction of having your book translated into 3 languages, from English into 3 others. So
Yes.
that's quite unique. Tell us about SPMI.
I didn't think it was unique really, because I first wrote SP Mai. Honestly, it was you who propagated the whole book. I had already written a book for children, and I met you on the street at carnival time, and you said, "Why don't you bring out another book?" And I had already written these stories, and I was very fascinated by the names in Goa, especially when I read the obituary column. It would go on with these long double-barreled names, and Espiosa Mai was something that I liked the sound of.
Yeah.
And that is why I wrote the story about her. And there were many other stories on Goa in this book.
Actually, to start at the beginning, because the viewer might not know exactly what we are talking about, and it wouldn't be fair for me to take credit in any way for bringing out this book, but my kids enjoyed it immensely. And I remember feeling that we need more of these stories set in Goa, written locally. And I really liked, what I liked about your book is it's set in different parts of the state, among different social classes, different religious groups, different social groups. And the stories are very charming, things that kids can identify with. So you're saying that you have been inspired to write this book as it is because of the names that you came across?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think I was inspired by Goa all around, with people, with children. And this book, I really, I focused mainly on things that people had disadvantages for.
Like
The SP Mai is a person who is very heavy,
suffering from obesity?
Suffering from obesity, that's right. And there is a person who's lame. There's about name. There are different superstitions and different things that come up in Goan life, which they believe in, and they carry on from generation to generation.
Yeah, so like for example, the story of what will the people say, Lokite
Yes.
Mutolo in that sense. No?
And even What's in a Name.
What's in a name?
That's one of my favorite stories, which I wanted to push to all children.
Which is about?
Which is about a little girl who's called Tikli.
Yeah.
And her name is really Joanna.
Okay.
And they said that Tiklo was a boy's name for it. And when they named a boy Tiklo, it means that he's stuck.
This old tradition that if a boy is born after 3 girls, it's good luck for the family, and if a girl is born after 3 boys, it's bad luck for the family, kind of thing, no?
No. It is after 3 boys or 3 girls. The person who's born after that is the one who's stuck with the parents for the rest of their life.
I see.
But that was very upsetting for me to hear.
I see. All kinds of traditions, some of which are not very. So through this book, you're trying to give children a positive message. Is it that?
I am.
Okay. So of course, can you share with us some of the stories which are in the book? For example, just the themes. I want to know.
Yeah, SP Mai is about a woman who is rather stout, and she gets stuck. So I bring humor into the whole story, so that she can, so that child can laugh and appreciate the story. At the same time, realize that they can help someone in such a situation.
So SP Mai is coming down from Bombay, and she gets stuck while she's trying to get out of the auto rickshaw. And then the children in the story, they actually help her to overcome her problem with overweight, and they encourage her to get along. And
they stop laughing at her, and they encourage her to go on a diet, to eat pois. And that is how the SP Mai goes on. Then Fix It Farida is about a girl who is like a boy, because she wants to fix everything, and they think that it's a job only for a boy. But no, she wants to fix everything till she realizes she cannot fix her dog when it breaks its leg, and she has to go to the vet. So it tells you a little bit about different professions.
So you're going against a gender stereotype in that particular story. And then of course there is this Kankona story about the floods which had actually happened in that time.
Yes, it was after the tsunami.
Yeah.
at Kanakona.
Yeah.
And how they lost everything and they built their own library by putting up a concert.
So it is part true and part fictional, in the sense that the true part is that the floods
Yes.
happened.
Yes.
And the fictional part is that these children get together and try to rebuild their school, and
Yeah.
So you're giving a positive story there also.
And who put the baby in your tummy, telling them a little bit about pregnancy and teaching them something.
At an age that the children can understand.
Yes. And also the Rose Garden, which talks about Alzheimer's.
Okay.
So different
Which can
disabilities and abilities that people have, and
Yeah.
how they can accept it and live with hope and be able to overcome whatever is there in the family without any kind of a slur on their family name or their situation.
So you're telling the kids that this is something that can happen to your grandparents or parents or
Yes.
whatever,
Yes.
but it's a reality of life and it's something we need
Yeah.
to cope with.
Yeah.
And what I particularly liked is the way your stories are set in different Goan villages. So like when I was reading it to my kids when they were very
Yeah.
tiny, they would say, is it our Kalangut that we are talking about, not the neighboring village and things like that. So it's very surprising. What was the response to a book like this?
Oh, it was very good. Many people from Goa wanted, as you said, like with your children, they related to the place, that they knew the place, that did it really happen here? They asked their parents, and the parents came and told me. Until today, some of those children who read those books when they were 4 and 5 are still reading them.
I see.
From 2011, they're still reading them. They said sometimes during exam time, they pick up this book at night time and read it.
One of the schools, without taking names, I think actually bought a number of copies to use it as a rapid reader for the 5th standard students or something like that. So, we have a shortage of stories set in Goa, isn't it? And written in Goa, in English. Yeah. Konkani, you have quite a few.
Yes.
Probably Marathi also, but in English there are only a few. At one stage, someone called you the Enid Blyton. One of the journalists, a friend, called you the Enid Blyton of the of Goa, and you were not very flattered. Why?
Because I just felt that Enid Blyton's writing was different completely from what I wrote. I think I write to be able to teach children something. Although I don't preach, I like to feel that I teach. And I don't think Enid Blyton does that.
But whatever, both of you all have got the reader completely caught up and, engaged and loving whatever you write. So I think that was meant as praise, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it was praise. Because and really it was more than praise, because she has written far, far more and has become a worldwide name today.
There's a full industry, with people churning out books in her name long after she's dead and whatever it is. But people still enjoy that, Famous 5, Secret 7, whatever. We grew up with that, and in a way our minds were colonized, Anita, with that kind of writing, because it wasn't set locally, not even in India. Forget about Goa. It was set away 5,000 kilometers away, and the kind of trees that we spoke about, the kind of tea parties that they spoke about, it was so alien to all of us. So then it got translated into 3 languages. That's Romi Kokni.
Yeah, Romi Kokni
by Dalgat Kokni Academy, and
Isidore Dantas translated it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
and then Portuguese, which was crowd translated in that sense with.
Yes, and we got translators from all over the world, which was a very fantastic thing, really. And
they did the work without charging a dime, I think, because they liked the story so much and they found that it was unique, set in Goa.
Yeah. And Inez Figueira was one who translated 3 stories, and later on became the director of Fundista Orient.
Yeah.
So when I went to her, I was so excited to meet her. Both of us hugged each other, and she said, "I will see that the book is published."
I see. So it actually came out in Portuguese.
Yeah, that is how it was sponsored by Fundista Orient.
2014, 13, somewhere.
14. Yeah.
And very recently in Marathi, this was
2019. 18, sorry.
By one of your colleagues who liked the stories?
Dr. He is Professor Jeevan Kedekar, who is a chief coordinator. And when I asked the students, I said, I really would like to translate it into Marathi because I want the Devanagari script. And he was passing by and he said, I'll do it.
I see.
And I was really excited about that because I wanted the book in Devanagari script and in Marathi, because there are so many children who still go to the primary school in Marathi. With the Marathi.
It's an important language.
It is an important language,
In that sense, translating is a way to reach out to wider audiences, isn't it? Some challenges, some difficulties.
Yes.
Some difficulties in doing it, because like your stories, names need to get across.
Yes.
I think when you were doing Portuguese, this word "mai," which is Konkani, it has a different connotation and a different spelling, and it can cause some kind of confusion. But of course, your first storybook is Tales from Golden Goa. You want to tell us the story behind this book?
I was brought up with stories. Both my parents always told us stories, and so I continue to tell my children stories. And my friend, almost childhood friend from college days, Alexis, who is illustrated. No, he illustrated SP My book, and he wrote the foreword to this book.
I see.
Yeah. So
very simple book, very simple, very few pages, but very powerful stories, nicely told, and set in Goa. All of them set in Goa.
All of them set in Goa, about the general things: the pig who was going to be slaughtered and didn't want to be slaughtered, the mosquito that got caught, the monkey who robbed the mango. So it was very everyday kind of topics that any child can relate to, about their experiences.
How did it come about? You were telling me about Father Freddy's role in this.
Yes, I first went to Kamath Graphics. We have Ashok Kamath, who is a friend of ours. So I asked him, I said, if I want to publish this book, and he sent me to Father Freddy. And Father Freddy corrected some of my Konkani words.
I see.
And he asked me to go to Fundisa Orient, which had just started then. And they sponsored the publication of this book.
I see. That is Father Freddy D'Costa, who used to run Gulab magazine.
That's right.
Unfortunately, passed away early.
Yeah.
He had his own press, and also you printed 2,000 of this in Goa itself. In Goa. Nice color printing and all.
Fundisa Orient gave 1,000 copies to all the libraries, school libraries in Goa.
I see. It's difficult to come by. But tell us about your other role. I know you are also, a professor and things like that in the subjects of what exactly do you teach?
I used to do all communication, oral and written communication, but now I do only creative writing and emotional intelligence.
I see. In MAPSA this is?
In MAPSA, in Saraswat College and DMC College.
I see. It might be a bit unfair to call you Professor Coelho's daughter, but I'm sure some of our viewers would know Professor Coelho.
Yes, perhaps they do.
So he was in St. Xavier's College in Bombay
Yes, in Bombay for 35 years.
Teaching history? Teaching
history. He was also a paper setter examiner teacher at the university and all the major universities of India. He was paper setter and examiner for. And he was also a PhD guide for history. Yeah.
While we are talking about Golden Goa, just to go back a bit, tell us about Nico and your late husband, because I think
I've dedicated this book to my late husband, Anita Pinto, because he always wanted the Goans to come back to Goa. He came back to Goa from East Africa after 3 generations.
I see.
And so he wanted Goans to come back to Goa. So I dedicated it to him in the hope that Goans would come back to Goa. The book has reached all over the world, and hopefully there are people who are coming back today.
There are a few, and they're contributing quite a bit in that sense. The numbers are few compared to the numbers going out. Yeah. But still, I think that's a vision, and it's an important vision. Anita, is it true that we get most interested in children's stories when we have small children ourselves, and that's a time when we should write these stories or promote them or publish them or whatever?
I can't say if one gets most interested in it at that time, but one creates the stories. And I noticed that parents today, young parents today, are very eager to read to their children and for them to read. So they're constantly looking for children's books, newer books, and there are books today that have gone way off the story level. If you read Wimpy Kid's Diary and
in what sense? Way off in the sense?
They're not stories.
Oh, I see.
it's like a child actually writing and telling you about how they're being teased in class, or how they're being doing things, or the dog diaries where everybody's a dog,
I see.
or somebody is a dog, and somehow I cannot accept them as stories, but that's what children want to read today, and I think they have to go through a process of reading to be able to appreciate their own kind of reading. That is what we were taught as children. My father, even as we were growing up, he never ever told us, don't read this book or don't read that book.
Yeah.
We brought all kinds of books into the house from the libraries, and he let us read it. He would always look at it. Sometimes maybe he would even frown, but he would never say anything. He believed that we would make our own judgments.
Do you think we have enough writers for children in Goa, in English in particular?
In Goa, no.
No. How do we change that?
I think we have to have more competitions for people to write for children. Like how Fundisa Orient has this short story competition. But there are no competitions for children.
Specifically for children, no?
Specifically for
Konkani, they've done quite a bit. They even had this Konkani magazine, no? Rajahansani Burgi and things like that. But I think we are lagging behind.
And I think honestly that people should stop giving trophies and cups. The child appreciates it for a little while and then it stays in a cupboard and then it's thrown from one corner to the other. Perhaps giving them a scholarship for something or cash prize would be more valuable than the trophies and cups.
Even books for that matter. Though
Even books.
It might seem like a self-serving argument because both of us are connected to the field, but I've seen books like 30, 40 years later, you know, they still
keep it because
with pride. It's
written inside, their name is written inside.
Which brings us to the next part of your next avatar, which is as a teacher of elocution and public speaking and creative writing. Tell us about these two books, both published by Better Yourself Books.
So I used to train my children for elocution and they used to win the prizes.
I see.
So when I went to Bombay for a few years, I trained... there were many people who came and asked for their training. So I started with St. Stanislaus School in Bandra, then St. Anne's in Bali, Bandra. And I had many children from private schools who came and I trained a lot of them. And then they said, and I thought that what they spoke on sometimes was not meant for a child. They talked on divorce and they talked on garbage pollution and heavy material. So I decided to have topics that were very simple, like I like being a boy. And
for a girl?
No,
for a boy. For a boy. Sorry. I thought you were just,
No, and different topics that, like if I were Prime Minister of India, was a very common topic.
Wow.
But it was always played up very, very hackneyed. So I made it funny.
I see. How?
By telling people about all the fun things I would do, like I would have no homework and from a child's point of view. So they appreciated it, and people would laugh and they would get prizes.
I see.
And that is why I started writing.
The topics are very challenging, no?
Yeah.
I mean, getting the right topic for a kid.
It can be a mundane topic.
Yeah.
But if you twist it, and you give it some sense of humor, it becomes better. So that is how I wrote all these pieces, and I went to Better Yourself Books, and he said, I said, these are very topical subjects. So you can't take 6 months to let me know whether you're going to publish it or not. This was my first book.
Yeah.
So he said, will you give me a month? And he was Father Joseph Tenasseral, who had just come from America doing his PhD in mass media. So I said, yes, of course. And the next day he called me up and he said, we'll publish it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it got a wide audience, being Bombay and being Better Yourself
Yes,
Books.
it's sold over 15,000 copies.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gone into 7 prints.
I see. Which brings us to Mother Mary Poems.
Yeah.
Mother Mary Poems by Anita Pinto. Very small book, very neatly crafted. Made where? It's almost
made in Bangalore.
Got this handmade design.
It is handmade. This is totally handmade. It's made by a niece of mine called Jenny Pinto. She studied design of books.
I see.
How to
really?
Yes, she's traveled all over the world studying that.
Oh wow!
And Justine Lobo,
the artist,
did the illustrations. And the story behind the book itself is is a miraculous story, since we are talking on a channel that believes in miracles. I wrote it after a high fever. I just woke up one day after the fever and I wrote all the poems.
Really?
Yeah.
Inspired.
Yeah. I just wrote them.
I see.
And then I closed the book and I forgot about it for several years.
Yeah.
And one day, soon after my husband died, somebody came to me and gave me a book on Mother Mary, and they said, you must read this prayer book every day. There's a date. I was not into reading a prayer book every day. I read the Bible. So I picked it up, and the first page it said was, this, you must write. So I looked at it again. I read it thrice. I said, how can Mother Mary tell everybody to write? And after a few days, I picked up the book again on another page, and again it said, write. And I went to bed that night, and I woke up and I said, but I have written.
I see.
I have written these poems which I had forgotten about. So I found this artist, and he, Justin Lobo, I went to him, I told him about the book. And when he went the next day, he was passing by the church in Panjim, and there was some novena to Mother Mary going on. He walked in, and he came out and he rang me up. He said, come and see the illustrations I've done, and I'm not charging you anything. I said, why? He said, I don't know. When I went to see Mother Mary, she told me not to charge you anything. All the entire book, my niece who did it,
I see,
gave me all the handmade paper for free. Wow. All the printing was done for free.
I see.
So I gave all the proceeds of it to women and children from Goa who are suffering from cancer.
Okay.
And we got a lot of funds for that.
Wow. And the last two?
These are value education books that I have co-authored. White Dove, which is done by Orient Black Swan. Yeah. So they are just value education books on different subjects of value, which I've co-authored with Usha Tharoor and Kanchan Banerjee, who's a friend of mine from Bangalore.
That's quite a lot.
They're selling thousands and thousands of books per year.
And if you had better facilities to get published more easily, to reach a wider audience, I'm sure it could have reached far more. But in Goa, we are at one niche of the country, and people don't appreciate it fully. Yeah. What are your next plans?
I've just finished a third book of elocution pieces for students.
I see.
And it's with the publisher just now.
I see.
So these are more pieces and more modern pieces because
times have changed.
Yeah. One is called God is Dead, telling us how today people are making everything a god, and consumerism has become a god. And funny subjects as well about children's things.
I see.
But Technium, which is the world to come.
I see.
So I hope I have kept it a little more modern in its outlook. Then I'm doing one book on how to write poetry for children. So those are two in the offing.
And whatever comes up, more of the same. Maybe another edition of SP Mai because it's out of print.
And another edition of SP Mai, yeah.
I've
already written the stories.
Your poem.
Yeah.
Do you want to end with that?
Yeah.
Which we were just talking about before we started.
Yes.
Introduce it.
The thing is that because I write for children, I feel that I'm not taken very seriously as a writer. Maybe it is just my impression, but I wrote this poem and I'm only reading the beginning and the end of it. It's called Don't Take Me Lightly. So I'm not considered a serious writer. I write for children, funny stories, village tales, life experiences to declaim, not serious writing that tear your gut and maim. My language is simple, childlike, naive, candid, trusting a child to understand the joys of life, the pains of living. Then I go on to say other things, and I end with, but I write a serious verse that can tear your gut and maim. You can take a paper bag of my poetry, turn it upside down and shake. It stands up straight. It's what I make. It's what I stake.
Thank you so much, and so well put. On that note, we'll end this small discussion. Thank you,
you.
Anita, for coming here. It's really been a pleasure to read your work.
Thank you for calling
to
me.
share it.
I so appreciate that I'm able to share it with you.
So thanks viewers for being with us. You've just heard Anita Pinto. This is coming to you from the CCR studios on the banks of the Mandovi River in the heart of town. Thank you for being with us.